Let's go to Dave Jamieson right now, TSN1260 Edmonton, our good and long-time friend. How are you, David?
Well, Roddy.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Good. I don't even know where to start with you, buddy. I mean, let's put your CFL hat on for a second. How are you feeling about things?
I'll echo the words of Randy Ambrosie and say cautiously optimistic, more cautious than optimistic. I think we should, hopefully, get some detail today as to what the CFL's return to play protocol is going to be, whether or not this is going to be some sort of a truncated season, and it likely will be. But as you have discussed ad nauseum, Rod, this is a league that cannot play with empty stadiums. It is turnstile driven in the truest sense of the word. And listen, there's a lot to unpack in terms of the Canadian Football League because it is unique. It is special, obviously, in the brand of football that is, but also the economic model that underpins the whole enterprise. So I hope that they're going to get some relief. But again, when I first heard that, 150 million, I got sticker shock like I think a lot of people did. And then when you break it down and it's 30 million and then it comes in sort of staggered phases, I don't think it was the best work by Randy Ambrosie and the CFL in the way that this rolled out. Now, I know they didn't control the narrative entirely, but I think they could have done a better job out of the gate to position this. Whether that will help them in the end to get some, all, or none of the 30 million, I think it could have been done better. But like you, I'm going to wait to hear what the commissioner has to say today.
But I think you would agree that if they don't get funding, they're not playing. I mean, one's contingent on the other, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's call it what it is. It's a hand up. It's a bailout. That's okay. You have to use those terms because they're true and they're accurate. It is, Rod, you've lived it, so have I. The Canadian Football League in its best year, and I know Saskatchewan is the outlier in terms of, it is the economic engine of that league. Edmonton does very well, as does Winnipeg. But at the end of the day, it's fragile at best. And so this pandemic has tested the ability of the Canadian Football League in a way that, years of indifference and incompetence have not. This is so special, so unique. I fear that it will deal a devastating blow to this league going forward, let alone what it's going to do to this season.
For the hockey fans, we're going to get it around to that in a second with J-Mo, but I got to say this. One longtime CFL coach called me yesterday, and he ended the call with this, Dave. He said, we're going to find out how much this league means to this country. And I thought, bingo, there's the line, man, because I love the league. You love the league with every fiber of our being. But does everybody love the league? We're going to find out, Dave, this summer.
Rod, I have always been skeptical of leagues, sports, anything really, with few exceptions, that wraps itself in the flag. The Canadian Football League has been, a part of what it means to be Canadian for a long, long time. But this country has changed so dramatically. I wonder if the CFL can confidently look in the mirror and say we are, as Canadian as whatever. Pick an iconic element
Maple
of our country.
syrup.
Well, sure, go with that. But all of that said, I understand why they would make that play. They would reach into the arsenal and roll that out as in this time saying, look, we have been here for the 107th Grey Cup just got played. It's been, part of 9 cities in this country for a long, long time. It has a value, but I don't know. And to echo the words of the coach that you talked to, what do they say? It's gut check time, right? You're late in the fourth and you're down by 10. Okay, who's in, who's out? How are we going to get this done?
And who can we rely on, right? Who's our key people here, by the way? I'm not sure they know that.
No, absolutely. And I would agree with you. And, you've got a franchise in British Columbia and, David Braley wants out and he should. He's earned that right. And then you have new owners in Montreal that literally just got the keys to the car and now they can't get it out of the garage. So, give me, where does this get good?
Yeah. By the way, just checking in with our viewers, Don in Ottawa, our Navy friend watching, he says, did the crew get the Millennium Falcon figured out? The guest is clearly visible and the sound quality is fantastic. David, we went technically from a two-seater Cessna to the Millennium Falcon in the last week, and the guys are just trying to figure out how to get that out of the garage. I think they nailed it today. Todd Moggy in Winnipeg's watching. He says, Dave is nailing it. So that's kind of all I had for the CFL discussion, unless you have a little more, David.
No, again, I will listen and make notes of what Commissioner Ambrosi is going to deliver today to the fans, because that's who he's speaking to, Rod, but by extension, the media, of course, and to the team employees. I think it's a very important, he needs to strike the right tone, and hopefully there's something that moves this forward. I was listening to your comments earlier. Let's get prepared that it may just be status quo and there really isn't much to report, but you have to do these things. You have to check in with your stakeholders. And as some of your listeners and viewers have said, Roddy, they've got their money. The season ticket holders have made a commitment, so they'd like to know, hey, what are we doing here?
Yep, they deserve it. There's no doubt. And again, I'll applaud the CFL for doing it, and we wait with bated breath what they're going to say. So the Oilers are in the 24-team playoff format proposed by the NHL, which I read on The Athletic that they're going to be announcing any day. How do you like the format, what you've read, Dave? And how's it going over in Edmonton?
Well, I had this argument with a colleague last night. For those who criticize 24 teams, how are you enjoying hockey right now? Because if 24 is all that they can offer up, if that is the best case scenario, and they've worked it through with the various owners and the PA, and it's 24, I'm of the opinion I'll take hockey. Rod, if you said two teams were going to flip a coin and we'd have 3-on-3 for 10 minutes, and that decided the cup, and that's all we had, I'd probably say give it to me. Look, anything coming out of this is imperfect science. So if it's 24, somebody's going to be disappointed. They are doing the best they can under these absolutely sort of cataclysmic times that we're in. And so I would applaud the NHL and really any business. Let me go beyond sports here, that is doing the best they can through this. And will mistakes be made? Yes. Will there be a positive test along the way? Well, let's go with yes. But right now it's a barren landscape of sports, with all, due respect to Bundesliga and NASCAR and some of the that are up and running. I'll take 24, but again, I'll leave. If others want to criticize, have at it, because I guess that's what we do in sports, right?
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing the leaders. Even with Ambrosi's talk to the House of Commons, I understand the pitfalls, but there's no handbook for this. And it's like he went in there alone. He wasn't armed by any of his compadres. That's the part that bothered me. Where's the people that are supposed to be helping the guy? That's the biggest problem that I had. And, Bettman's got an army of lawyers and smart owners and everything. I digress. I did see on The Athletic, and by the way, this is on the internet, so it must be true, Dave, that the Oilers aren't projected to go very far in the playoffs based on the projection on The Athletic. And there was a bunch of reasons why. So how do you think they'll fare in this 24-team scenario?
Well, the last image we have of the Edmonton Oilers is playing a game that was, they were on the ice while, Rudy Gobert and everything else was going down. So take me back 2 months. My memory, if it serves correct, is that they're a pretty good team. Are they a great team? Are they a presumptive Stanley Cup favorite? I would say no, but it's a team with promise, and you've got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, so you've got a leg up on, whatever else might be out there. Again, you're coming back after, 9 weeks, whatever it's been since they played hockey. The team that is going to be able to, obviously, to quote Motley Crue, kickstart their heart and get going fast and carry that into the playoffs is going to be in probably pretty good shape. Can the Oilers be that team or one of those teams that, I hate to say catch by surprise, because I don't know who catches anyone by surprise in sports now, because you know everything about your opponents. But look at the last year's Stanley Cup champion, the reigning Stanley Cup champion, the St. Louis Blues. We know how their season went largely until they figured it out and the light went on. They were playing playoff hockey for really since January, Rod, and they did the long, slow, grinding march to the end and ground everyone down to a fine powder. This is going to be different. Whoever comes out at the end of this, a great team 2 months ago may not be that team when they come back.
No, and that's the thing. What we're going to be reading on this is all gobbledygook and fake news. It's analysis, right? And these guys aren't even hockey people that are writing it. They're reporters. There's a difference. But the one thing they said was young teams could be favored in this, which Oilers are, check. and best goaltending, in a shortened tournament, I would not check the Oilers. I'm sorry, I'm not. And I get blasted by Oilers fans. I started the season in the corner of Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith. I am not there now, and it is not Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner, Dave. It's just not. I don't think the Oilers have the edge in that regard, if it's as important as people seem to think that it is, which we all know that it is.
Ask somebody named Jordan Binnington. A goal, and he's a very good goaltender, but came largely out of nowhere, at least to most of us, and rode that right into what they did last year. And so, yes, Rod, good teams can get great goaltending and become championship-winning teams without that goaltending component. Very good teams can be undone by their goaltending. So. Inexact science, let's say, but it's. I'll just put the Oilers in the mix in a good way to go deep in the playoffs. How about that?
Yeah, the main thing is they're in the dance. Absolutely, a lot of teams. 7 won't be able to say it. So lastly, from producer Clark, we here were following very closely the TSN 1260 food court draft, Dave, and kudos on you for the work that you did, but you were disqualified. I was devastated because I was pulling for you, Dave, because out of all those guys, I don't like the rest of them. You're my favorite, but you were disqualified. Can you explain the draft and then why you were disqualified?
Well, I mean, how would you explain a food court draft to anyone, Rod, other than it's pandemic broadcasting at its finest, which was you draft. There's a group of us were selected. I invited myself. I didn't earn the right. I invited myself. So I inserted myself into the mix to be in the draft because I thought it was foolish and thought because of my age, and I've been to a lot of food courts, that I would be in good shape. I drafted 5th overall, and I had a plan. I had a vision. And not unlike the process with the Philadelphia 76ers, I was thinking long game. Others went for the obvious Taco Bells and clean washrooms and all that kind of thing. And they were building a food court for now. And I was looking ahead into the future, and I thought I had a food court that actually people would want to go to, unlike some of my other competitors. And there was a flaw in the system, if you will. I didn't catch it. I don't have a deep analytics team. I don't have any analytics team, and we didn't catch it. We got to the end of the draft, and it felt good, and I was pleased with where we were headed. And then the system, I'll leave it at that, and it's a flawed system. They called it as they saw fit, with a rule book that I think is on the back of a napkin. So, am I bitter? Yes.
Well. Did you pick a restaurant that's not licensed? Like what could be so wrong? I saw, for instance, Cinnabon, Esbarrow, some of these places that aren't even in Canada. They're allowed, but you get disqualified? Well,
thank you for that. I wish I'd had you if I was able to appeal, but there is no one to appeal to. I overlooked the vendor outside the food court. So for your viewers and listeners, Rod, it would be a vendor that you would like a Purdy's chocolate. It wouldn't be in the food court itself. It would be just outside. And I didn't choose that. I had, it was going to be David's Tea for me, but I look back with some bitterness at the whole process.
I get it. Well, hey, live and learn, Dave, for the next one. Hey, are you going in studio today? Or are you broadcasting from home?
Been home, I think, for 9 weeks, Rod, if memory serves correct. It's feeling very Groundhog Day-ish, but you hunker down in the back bedroom. I'm sure my neighbors wonder why I'm talking to myself in high volumes for 2 hours a day between noon and 2. But I mean, that's kind of where we're at, right?
Yeah, well, keep her going, brother. We are following. I didn't know that you were at home, so good luck. Keep it up, and hopefully this ends soon, Dave. But let's do it again here once into the season with maybe better things to talk about than a CFL delay.
Always a pleasure, Roddy.
Dave Jamieson, we call him JMO, from TSN 1260 Edmonton, joining us today.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.